I should have known that it was temporary. I put that on my life before I die, that I'ma have a beat. Ain't no plan that you can stop when God the one that take the lead.
Yeah, boy, let's get into it.
All right, we back today with another episode, a kind of a new episode of Inspired by the Storm, but we're kind of going to have a brand new approach on this series because we want to make sure that this series is more thought-provoking and being able to have higher-level conversations based on business, finance, economics, as well as having special guests on in the future, special events, so that we can kind of put everyone into a new perspective on how we view business, how we view culture, how we view each other, and have a greater understanding of ourselves so that we can have a greater understanding of how we can move towards the future. Because if you don't know who you are as a person, your knowledge of self, then how do you know how you're going to influence other people?
That's right.
So we're going to start back. My name is Corey Phillips, founder of Social Storm Network, and now we have Ian, who is the co-founder of Social Storm. And we're here to promote financial literacy, entrepreneurship for economic growth within the community, putting information on financial literacy, education, economics, marketing, and then inspire other people to be great within their community.
Let's go.
That's ultimately, doesn't matter how much information we have if we're not able to give it to other people.
Let alone implement it ourselves.
Yes.
All right. What we got going on today?
So for this episode, we're going to kind of talk about the different things about society. We look at how this capitalistic system with the United States was created and how different countries all over the world basically capitalize on the capitalistic system, how you see a lot of influence in today's society. So we look back at many of like publicly traded companies as how like this all kind of started back in the early colonization period, like in the 14, 15, 1600s. We had all these companies from Europe, from like Spain, from France, from Portugal. They came all over the world. So they had different people that invested in different people to do voyages to different continents like India, South America, the Caribbean, North America. So people would invest in people to go overseas and basically go and exploit some of the resources. It started off just, people would say friendly, but it wasn't really friendly, to be honest, because they knew what they wanted. Basically go overseas and get some of the resources from them, whether that's like different sugars, different spices, different places that had nice land that was good for farming.
And they technologies down there as well.
Right. Like they knew different ways how to utilize the land, how to farm, basically. So they would go over there, they basically use some of those resources, start off just basically trading with them, about bringing them back so then they can bring back the resources, whether that's tobacco, whether that's sugar, all those things back to Europe, to their countries, so that they can sell it back for a higher profit. So basically that's how they can please the demand of these shareholders that invested in them to go overseas. So it eventually got to the point where they got tired of being nice. So they're like, okay, we're going to automatically create a system where we can continue to make more money and please the demand. So we need to be able to take over this land and use it for ourselves.
Exactly.
So they kind of built a foundation which the modern world is built off of, where basically they just kind of changed they decided a system on who was worth something and who wasn't.
Based on Christianity and religion, right?
Right. They said it was religion. Like they said they're going to put people that were like on these lands, so the native people that might have been in North America, might have been in India, might have been in Africa, said that they were savages or people that were not people like in a civilized society just because they were different.
In a way, like belittling these people so that they can have an advance on their land or their property.
Right.
Okay.
Basically, they put that into a mindset, into a system that they knew wasn't true, but they just kind of created that system so they can take over their land and put them to a system where people can kind of always be a slave to that system, so they can never think that they're ever bigger than what they are.
Exactly.
So that's basically, so it allows them to get this power and this wealth so they can always stay in wealth. Because the main idea is to basically keep these set of people so low to the point where they always think that they're a slave. So they can never think that, okay, I need to revolt because I'm only a slave. And that affects people mentally. Like you see that in modern society. You have a lot of people living, they're working a job, they're just doing regular things, or they're living in that environment where it's very toxic, very very polarized, very not really sustainable. Like you see a lot of activity, like with violence, with households where people are not really functioning as a community, and they kind of keep people combined, whether that's listening to all this type of music, this type of culture, basically putting people against each other, basically pulling families apart from each other, so there's no structure. So you have all these people thinking that all these ways of life that aren't necessarily good, normal.
It's normal. Ooh.
Yeah. And that's where the problem happens. So you can always keep people within that environment, within that mindset that, okay, it's normal for me. I can be that person that's just hustling or doing these things, and it's that's the only thing I can do. They basically cut off any model of someone that's a higher level. That's why you had people, Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., you had Malcolm X, you had Fred Hampton, all these leaders. They were killed. They were killed before they can get to the economics, because they knew if they got to the economics, and that would put people into a mindset that they are no longer a slave to the system, that they can be people in power, people in positions of power. And that's what the system did not want people to do. So basically, we look at the economic system. I'm going to pull up this economic theory, some Marxist economics, which was used in the mid-19th century, where it was key figures from Karl Marx and Friedrich Engels, where they had core ideas where basically Marxist economics is based on a critique of capitalism, focusing on class struggles and the idea that economic system is inherently exploitative. Marxists believe that capitalism leads to the concentration of wealth and power in the hands of a few, while the working class is oppressed. They advocate for the abolition of private property and establishment of a classless society.
Okay.
So, as an example, would kind of see in today's society where you see the top 1% host 90% of all the wealth within the country. You see this where you have all these big corporations. You see your Apple, Microsoft, Google are trillion-dollar companies, and these companies don't pay any taxes, where most people, they're paying less taxes than your average American. And
in the middle class.
Right. And they basically get all of these different violations within privacy. You see Facebook get all privacy, using data, all these things, but they have so much money that they can just pay these lawyers so that they don't have to pay these fines or get in trouble. So they basically continue to stay in power, and you always have the people that are all within the political system. You look at how you have different people that want to basically have tax incentives for people that are in business or at a top 1%, but basically they put their money, they know how the system works, so that they can always stay in power with the tax incentives, where to put their money in investments, where to do all those things. Like you see people within politicians investing in the stock market, but they're still on Capitol Hill, or you see people putting incentives for people that buy real estate, but only in reality the top 1% of the people that are able to benefit on this information. And that's why the whole United States is like it, where you have the rich getting richer and the poor is getting poorer, and they're trying to make it so that they're always in power. So it's important for us to realize that we need to know how the system was created, how we can get ourselves out of this system. Basically, knowing that we need to look at how we can be better as a community, because we have different issues at hand, but we're focused on other things. We're focused on being
into the media and all the things that aren't really important in life. With the Drake Kendrick conversation, with all the rap beef that's going on and all the drama that's going on with the concerts and different festivities that's going on in Chicago and worldwide. We would rather, put our time and energy and effort into knowing what's going on about media, rather than knowing what's going on within our communities and shaping how we can better develop our communities without having to, really rely on the government or people that don't have us in their vision.
Right. We're more focused on entertainment than rather being educated.
That's right.
People would rather be okay with just whether that's smoking, that's drinking, or whether that's going to this extreme vacation or going out, enjoying time with their family.
That's right.
But you can't see them come to an event where they learn about investing, where they invest in themselves, invest in their family, whether they're doing all these things within the community. Because why are we talking about gang violence, all these things and that, like about my block, this and that block? You don't even own the block. That's where we're like putting ourselves in a box where we're basically killing our own communities, when what we really need to talk about, how can we actually own this block? How can we actually start buying these buildings and we can start owning this? Because at the end of the day, we're at a point in this society where the people that live in these underserved communities, like you look in big cities all across the country, you look at south side of Chicago, you look at Hyde Park, you look at Bronzeville, that's some of the most valuable real estate in the country. And they're building the presidential library, doing a lot of different developments. But at the same time, you see a bunch of abandoned lots. You see a bunch of developments. And what they're doing is they're going to add all these developments, but they already bought up all the land that's there, basically pushing the people out of these neighborhoods and gentrification. So, and many people don't understand that you don't really have control because a lot of the people are renting.
And we don't own the land, like you said earlier.
So you're basically putting yourselves, like, you're in a situation where we are not able to basically take advantage of that opportunity of when they build these structures and the real estate so that the property values go up. We don't own any of this equity in the community.
Exactly.
And that's why when you have these conversations about investing in the stock market, investing in real estate, because home ownership is way lower now. We have way more, within the black community, we had more home ownership in the Reconstruction era in the 1960s than we do now.
So why do you think that that number has gone down so far?
I feel like it's because it's not going up.
Yeah, going up.
Up of people not owning houses, because I feel like it's just different things that we prioritize within our community. Because what our community used to do, we used to be able to work together. We used to have our families, good family structure where we had like mom, dad, and we had people would work together within the family, and the different people in the community would kind of basically help each other out. Because you look at other communities, they basically work together within business, whether people come overseas, they'll kind of get their education, and then they'll go back to their countries back, whether that's in Africa, China, overseas, they'll basically get their education and they'll go back to their community and provide the information back to their own family to uplift their people. But as soon as in our communities, we're at a point where people get to a point where they're successful or they get some money or idea, and they'll kind of just be kind of selfish. They wouldn't help anyone else.
Okay.
And we're kind of created a toxic environment where even if you are successful, you don't want to be back in your community, because our communities are so detrimental to our mindsets that you don't really want to be in that system where it feels like you're like being taken down. You have to help everyone, and everyone's not really has the mindset of, they just think they got to get it, but they don't really have that mindset that they need to earn it, that they need to
reciprocate it back to the community that they used to live in. And I remember they used to say, make it out the hood. Like, once you make it, you never come back. Like, you make it out the rack, don't come back. Like, but most people, they don't really think to give back to those that are in the hood, because that's something that we don't do. But if we started doing that, started investing more so into ourselves and our communities, it can make it to where we have a positive environment that people would want to go back to once they actually make it or make a little bit of change. Oftentimes, once people get rich and famous and, they make it off the hood, they don't want to go back to necessarily go back to their neighborhoods. And that's oftentimes because of the violence and things that goes on that they have to go through. So once you make it, like, sometimes people don't want to go back, but I'm giving credit to those who, oftentimes they do give back, just because they are in an environment that, they know that there are kids that are in an environment that they came from. So they want to give their resources and their knowledge just so that their community don't have to go through the same struggle. And that's something that we need to prioritize.
Need more people doing that.
Yes. And instead of, using this money to use it and blow it off on things that don't matter, that are materialistic goods, rather than investing it into a young adult, like somebody that's putting their time and effort and energy into learning and growing.
Right. Going back on that topic, we look at you look at other communities, you look at people that become successful that have lived, they go back and they live in their same city for generations. We need to start creating it so the environment is a lot more appealing, so that people can come back to their own neighborhoods and start going back to the schools, going back to the system. Like, people own, like, they own their houses for generations. Like, you have people that lived, like you see certain towns, they've lived in that town since it's been created.
Okay. And
they're thriving. Like, they've owned their house for multiple generations, passing that down. And we need to normalize that, because people think, oh, when I get old enough, I just need to move out. I need to get away from my family. But back when we had it at the highest levels, we stayed together as families. We had structure within our family. So instead of maybe moving out when I'm 18, maybe I stayed with my parents a little bit longer until we had enough money to go and buy a property that we can own, not just rent. Because it's okay to rent depending on the situation. Because sometimes it's more expensive to own than rent. But in reality, if over the time you're just basically losing money funding someone else's building and wealth, and that you could be funding your own.
Yeah.
And like they're saying that by 2050 we could be, African Americans be worth a net worth of $0, because we are the biggest consumers, but we are the people that do not own as much real estate. We don't invest as much into the stock market, and we're not owning and building sustainable businesses, reinvesting back into our community.
That's right. So the question being, what is the modernized vision for what you're saying right now?
So basically creating a system where we can basically create our own system. Like, we cannot rely on the whole entire agenda of what's currently been happening to bring us up, because throughout the whole entire system we haven't been in a situation where we have been prioritized. Like, it's unfortunate and it's the way that it is, but there hasn't been any political system that has made the African American community a priority the way it should. There's been people that have tried, there's been people that have made strives, but at the end of the day, we're still not where we need to be. We still have a lot of crime, a lot of poverty, a lot of people living paycheck to paycheck, a lot of people living traumatic lifestyles.
Okay.
And we've normalized that throughout our society. We need to be able to take ourselves out of survival mode and put ourselves in a mode where we can be prosperous and wealthy. So having more people, not necessarily going into those things. We have 1 million people all over the country trying to go into the NFL or NBA and trying to be the next rapper. But in reality, we don't have enough people going into the fields of being business people, being people that are going to technology, people that are going to be innovators and leaders, and trying to do things that can help the community. Like, not saying that you can't be successful at that, but we need to be able to put ourselves in positions of power, because if you're always never in positions of power, you can never be in power, because you'll always be a slave to the system if you're always in that slave mindset, because you're always waiting for something or someone else to give you opportunity. You have to go and have something in you to go out there and get it at some point. But also, at the same time, once you get there, being able to help someone else get there. And then that's where the chain effect goes down. So what I learn goes to my kids, and then my kid transfers that information down to their kids. And we continue to normalize investing, normalize businesses, normalize collaboration within each other.
Okay.
Normalize all those things.
So, that I really want to tie this into the video. So when it comes to how colonization started and things of that nature, how these public companies paid and invested in people colonizing other land so that they can get resources and things of that nature. So that's like the basis, the history of why our communities are the way that they are right now. And Corey similarly talked about the updated way of how they do it in today's society. What I wanted to understand or brief is, again, based on what you just said, and what way could we find ourselves moving forward? Like, away from more so like the capitalist society in which we live in oftentimes, towards a more diverse community in which we're living together and we're working together for a common cause or a common purpose, not really trying to put down those people who have worked their hearts out to make something of themselves, but to uplift them and make them feel welcomed in a space in which allows them to, once they make it, give their funds to the community, give their time, give their effort, give their resources back to the community, rather than feeling like they got to leave the house at 16 or 18. And oftentimes going away.
We have to basically decolonize our whole entire thought process and have a completely restructure the way we view ourselves and how we restructure the way we see culture. Because we see a lot of things throughout culture. You look through media, you look at like different companies where we have a perception of who we are and who we're supposed to be. We have these media companies, you see like BET, that's not even black owned, or different companies that kind of put a perception of how we're supposed to be. We're only
through black content, right?
Yes, they put us in content where they put us into a situation. They never show shows where we have basically full and functioning families. They put us in all the shows is where people are basically unfunctioning families where there's a lot of toxicity, a lot of negativity, a lot of things that don't show positive influences within the community. You see,
I could think of some too. That's on my laughing right now.
Yeah, so they show that. They don't see full families where the families are working together on something. They're always the mother and father are always arguing. They never live together. Somewhat the kids don't want to do anything productive. They're overly intoxicated, doing drugs, doing unproductive things. We need to show more shows within media where people are doing positive influences with the community. Because how are you going to see someone to be a civil engineer, someone that's a public speaker, someone to be a leader, if that's all you see is drug dealers, gang members, and people that are doing negative things? So we need to be able to have positive imagery on how we view our culture. We less of the entertainment, less of the things that we see already, but more of the things that can actually provide value about how we can improve our health, how we can improve our social system, how we can improve our schools. Because how most people in our schools now, in like Chicago public school, all over, most kids cannot read up to grade level. And if you can't read up to grade level, how do you think you're going to be able to excel in other aspects of your life if you can barely read? So it starts within the family structure, with how we view our family, what the role of our family is, and how we basically treat each other. Because that's, like you see a lot of things throughout the world. You see our communities that there's basically just a whole entire disinvestment in how we live. Like you see a lot of garbage, you see a lot of abandoned buildings, you see a lot of people not helping each other. When we were at our strongest, we had people that worked together. And
so that's how we decolonize our minds and starting to. Okay.
Yeah, so basically having a knowledge of who we are, because our roots come from Africa or different parts of the world where we work together. We work together as a community. So we're people that were community oriented, that were kind of decolonized to our mind, that we are people that need to work against each other. And we also need to have different priorities, because the thing is basically get money and don't work with anyone else.
Okay.
And your main goal cannot just be money, because you need to have some morality to it. We don't have any more morality within our communities.
It's just the more you can get, the more you can get, the more you can get, rather than the more that you can give. And yeah, like you said, like with these executives and publicly traded companies, they oftentimes find ways to use other people to make more money, rather than use their resources and their money to help people learn how they can better fit or better give back towards their own community.
Right. Like you see all these companies that basically what they're trying to do is continue to make more profits with not even caring about their employees. Like they will replace people with AI because it's more efficient. They're gonna take people out their jobs so that they can hire these robots, so they can make more money with decreased expenses with not having to pay all these people, so they can hire robots. But at the same time, we have a lot of our communities where people basically rely on these jobs. They're basically a slave to these jobs. They're people that they put their whole entire life into these jobs, but they don't really have a savings account. They don't have a investment account, and they don't have an idea of how they can take control of their life and where they want to be, because it's not, the system kind of puts us in a situation where a lot of us don't even know what it's like. That's all we know. And it's unfortunate that we're in this situation even in 2024, because majority of us are not living that prosperous life, especially that you see other communities. And we just need to be able to uplift and support each other to get to that way. So being able to have this information about investing, about business, so that we can pass it to other people and start working together, because we cannot do this apart. If we work farther apart, then the worse off we will be. The more we need to do is be able to just converse with other people, because you might not see someone that might be in a different block or a different part of the city, but you might realize that you have a conversation, that you all are closer and have more things in common than you may think. And that's just looking at the whole entire world in general, just learning that all these communities where people fought against themselves, every single time the community continues to fall. Like you said with ancient civilizations, where basically these communities where they kind of just had this idea of what they're trying to do, but not really having anything moral behind it, continued to fall because they didn't have anything morality or trying to help each other. Because you're fighting against each other, someone can easily come in and tear you down.
That's right.
And that's what's been happening in our communities.
And again, like you said, like that's why we're all here. Even us as young adults, 19, 20-year-old college students, we're here so that we can even push the agenda of us collaborating. So again, with the viewers, with you all being on the opposite side of the camera, like reach out, let us know in what way could we collaborate, because like Quay said, at some point it's going to be AI. I remember seeing on the media earlier, Taco Bell, how they are starting to replace the workers at Taco Bell, and they're starting to use AI to make the jobs less, because through the drive-through, instead of having the workers pack it up and do X, Y, and Z and be at the drive-through taking order, they can take it through AI. They can take it through online and have the AI give you the meal. And if we do not stop relying on these private traded companies and these public traded companies, then we can just see a lot of our jobs and a lot of the ways in which we make income disappear as we try to find.
That's one thing.
That's one.
But we need to change the idea of how we view that, because AI is not our enemy. That's how we have a viewpoint within our community. AI is not going to be our enemy. We need to stop running away from it, because it's going to be here whether we like it or not.
That's right.
We have to either adjust to it and learn how to leverage these ideas and uplift our community rather than run away. If not, we will lose out on trillions and trillions of dollars of wealth and miss an opportunity and never be able to come back to it.
To capitalize from it.
Exactly. Because
yeah.
Basically AI is the biggest thing that's been here since the smartphone.
So what you know about it, and what way can we use it together to make a benefit or profit within our communities?
So the main thing we can utilize is it makes everything more efficient. We have to be able to use it, but not rely on it. Well, I mean, not rely on it to a point where it basically thinks for you. AI cannot change your mindset. That's the thing. AI doesn't control you. You control AI. You have to be able to put yourself in a mindset that you can still have the ability to think and your creativity and your own story, and be able to use AI to help pull that story out to the world. Don't utilize it. Don't rely on AI to basically take away your creativity or take away your ideas, because you need to have your own thoughts from your mind that you think, but use AI just to basically make your life more efficient. Don't let that ability to lose your creativity, your thoughtfulness, or your authenticity, because that's one thing that AI can't be, is you. You have your own special story from your own circumstances, your own lifestyle. And of course, you have people all over the world trying to do the same thing with business, on online platforms, different things. But the thing that makes you special is your own personal story, your own personal experiences. And the people that continue to use and share their story to the world are the people that continue to thrive. Even when AI comes, even when AI takes over the world, we'll still have our own ideas, our own thoughts, and our own visions of how we see the culture and how we view ourselves. Because it first comes down to knowledge of self first, and then that's how you can be able to explain that to other people and utilize your thoughts. The most important thing in 2024 and the future is to have your ability to think for yourself. And that's where a lot of people are not able to think for themselves. That's a modern day slave. They're more enslaved to the smartphone or AI rather than they go in and talk to other people. It's going to get to a point where we're going to be so distracted with our phones, with technology, that we're not able to even know what's real and what isn't. And that's the scary thing about it. But people need to be able to have the ability to do the research, be able to read books, be able to train their mind, rather than just be consumed by technology and all the things that's distracting us from where we want to be in the future.
I gotta knock you off for that one. So basically what I got from it is really not being comfortable with what the media is portraying to you. Oftentimes being able to think for your own and the mindset that Corey and I have adapted is asking why to everything, not accepting everything for what it is. If I get a piece of information that I find reliable, doing another search on another website to understand and see if that information is factual, and if not, keep on asking why until you get to that answer, instead of just being okay with the first thing that you hear, because that's how like Corey said. Corey, again, you said that. I got stopped.
Having the ability to think for yourself, or being able to just let the information, everything consume you, distractions from being able to think for yourself. Like we see, you look at information, there's a lot of misinformation online where people have different concepts of ideas where they haven't even opened up a book or had a conversation with other people. So they have all this misconceptions and idea of misinformation that they think is the reality, but is not even true. They're living in their own reality of their own head that's of information that's not true, on things that don't help them and don't benefit them and don't uplift them, but only brings them down. And we need to be able to hold ourselves accountable, because basically anyone with their own smartphone can be their own media platform. It used to be a point where we used to come from all these, there's a lot of journalistic integrity, but now people can just basically see whatever they want online. And now with AI, with computers, with smartphones, people can just put any and everything they want. And they're not able to do the research for themselves. So it's important that we continue to push the right type of information. So a lot of this information that we put on this content is related to stuff that we did research on, a lot of things that we've experienced, a lot of things that we've seen throughout the community, and things that we see throughout life.
And then we fact-checked as well.
Right.
Through different sources.
Right. That's something that we need to be able to do, is do your research and be able to become knowledgeable. And I get to a point where I'm not just knowledgeable on financial literacy, but I'm knowledgeable about history, where I'm knowledgeable about mindset, about culture, about different things like that, because I always want to continue to train my mind. If you always not thinking, you're always going to put yourself in a point where you're going to lose your ability to think, and that's what's going to hurt you in your life, especially as a young person. Basically, distracting yourself, putting yourself where you're just scrolling, whether you're just getting instant dopamine. Put yourself in a situation where you can train your mind till you can elevate your life, whether that's physically, mentally, emotionally, socially, and have some sort of stance on what you're trying to accomplish, whether that's you want to be an athlete, whether you want to be a visionary, whether you want to be an entrepreneur. Basically, utilize the people you see that was successful from the past and innovate how you can utilize that towards the future. Like, we have enough people that try to be consumers, but we need more people to be able to lead. And we understand that not everyone's going to lead, so we need to put the right people that can help lead people in the right direction instead of the wrong direction. And just being able to utilize your thoughts for positivity rather than negative things. Like making sure we look at the way we eat foods, the way we view all this information, because everything starting back from this colonialism, we basically degraded our own community, and we continue to still do that same thought process. And we need to we degrade each other, we degrade ourselves, we degrade our own identity. We need to start doing things in a positive manner. Make music about positive things, make things about culture, about positive things, about things that can be productive, that can uplift each other, about how we can build things from the bottom up, how we can own buildings, we can build skyscrapers. Like, that's a goal that I want to see down the line, is for us to have skyscrapers all over the country, all over the world, where we can talk about investing, about financial literacy, and be pillars within our communities to basically create an incubator for next generation of thought leaders, change makers, entrepreneurs, and people who can be the next leaders of tomorrow. And Ian, have any other questions for this episode that we can finish before we hop off?
So, again, like, oftentimes we refer back to the video in this conversation, and I feel like we answered those questions well. Something that I want to know is specifically, what are your views on the South Side of Chicago? Again, we spoke on Obama making a library. What do you see for the South Side of Chicago? Because you did say that that's one of the most important real estate investments in the country as of now. Like, what's your views on that?
Well, I said there's a lot of opportunity that we can use within the community. We look at Chicago in general. Chicago is the third biggest city in the United States, but we're still the most segregated. We have a lot of people in different parts of the city. I walked through Gold Coast, which is one of the most prominent neighborhoods in Chicago. You look at some parts of the south side of Chicago, it's like two different worlds. And what we need to understand is that there's some people that have been in the south side of Chicago that haven't even seen Lake Michigan. They haven't been outside of the community. All they know is their block or their hood or whatever they've been at, and they haven't seen that there's more to their life, that they can be someone that opens their own business downtown Chicago, that they can open a skyscraper, that they can be successful if it's not being a rapper or an athlete. They can be an engineer. They can be someone that is greater. They can live past 25, that they don't have to do drugs. They don't have to do alcohol, that there's help. They can put themselves in a situation where that they can basically, they don't have to just portray this image that they can't be emotional. They can be there are positive people out there, and that there's more to that their life, and that we basically put more positive influences into the community, that continue to invest back into the community, that can help show them that more is possible, because it's not what you do know, it's what you don't know is going to hurt you. And a lot of these people don't even know that there's greater fruits in their life that they don't even know about, that there's many opportunities, because it's not about a lack of opportunities, it's not about a lack of resources, it's just a lack of purpose, lack of identity, a lack of our thoughts and our mind and control of where we want to be, because a lot of people don't feel like they have control. But we have to give them the idea that they know that they are in control, that no one else is in control, but they can and will be more successful. They can do better, and that they don't have to be the same system that continues to harness our community. We can be successful. We can be wealthy. We can be free. We can be legendary. And have to continue to say that to each other. And each other just tell it to other people so that we can continue to grow together.
Okay. So can you tie that into the question, again, about the south side of Chicago and with what Obama is doing in regards to expansion and making the library?
I think the library represents something that's very positive, because a lot of people before our time couldn't see someone that was a black man as a president. And now that you see someone that's a black man as a president have his own library dedicated to him, that I can be that same person. I can be a president. I can be a business owner. I can have my own library dedicated to my community, because that just shows like it's kind of different. Like you see a lot of people that might be from different cultures that might look different than you. But seeing someone that looks just like you in a situation shows that I can be like that guy.
Okay.
I can be president. I can be that investor. I can be a leader that creates enough influence so I can have my own library in my community. I can have my own community center. I can show other people that I can be that model. I can be that. Like, that's the standard. That's the standard that we're setting, not just the standard of just being average or being below average or just being regular within our community. That the standard is I'm going to be the next leader to create change throughout not just my community, but the whole entire world. And with the palm, everything having on our cell phones right now, I can reach people from all across the globe.
That's going to help you to get to that point where you see that I am wealthy, I'm legendary, I am free, I'm the change maker in the community. So again, when it comes to collaborations over competition, it's important to make these type of collaborations. Like myself and Corey, we didn't know each other at first. We could have gone about our own companies. At first I had Communication Storm, Corey had Social Storm. Instead of being our own individuals, I'm not going to say that, not own individuals, but instead of continuously working alone, we decided to come together. And now we're trying to use our brains and, our backgrounds to find a way in which we can add more value to the community rather than doing it on our own selves. So yeah, again, that's important, Corey. Like, I can't wait to see in what way could not only us but the community look at what Obama is doing as a guideline to see how we can continue to add value to different communities.
Right. And that's just the beginning. It's definitely important to put yourself in that situation that you can, and stop telling yourself you can't. I say can't is a bad word. I don't say. Saying won't, can't, won't, because if you continue to tell yourself that, then you will never be that. But if you say someone that you can do something, that you say basically can manifest it. You basically say, I can, I will, and you basically tell yourself that every single day. But then you actually put action towards that, then that's how your dreams actually become into reality. a lot of people just put their thoughts and dreams, but they don't put the action in place so that they can reach their dreams in imagination.
And I want to add something. The actions and the collaborations in place.
What you say?
The action. I want to add something to what you said. The actions and collaborations in place. Because once you put that action into yourself, understand yourself, like Corey said, I know my weaknesses is probably emotional intelligence. That's why I decided to partner up with different people such as Corey Phillips, who, is probably more so emotional intelligent. And that's a place in which I'm weak. So by being around someone who is strong in different places and putting action and having collaboration involved in our lives rather than focusing your mind on a weakness that you have.
Focus on your strengths.
Focus on your strengths and collaborate with people that are more strong.
And compliment you.
In your weakness. Thank you.
Right. And I wouldn't say that she's not. It's just that we both have different perspectives and different strengths. Like, there's certain things I lack, and there's some things that Ian are better at. And a lot of people need to understand that you can't be a successful entrepreneur, successful person by yourself. You need other people to help guide you, whether that's mentors. Ian and I have like 3, 4, 5 different mentors from different perspectives.
Not even from just Chicago.
All over the country, all over the world, because there's some people might be mentors that might not be people within your industry or where you want to be, but they have a lot of information. And more people within our generation need to stop thinking that we know it all, but we need to actually sit down and listen to some of those people that have experienced certain things, that are in those positions of power. Don't just listen to anyone, of course. Listen to those people that have done it, and you might learn a lot just by listening. You learn so much instead of just trying to talk on social media, online, on Facebook, Snapchat, about why your life's terrible. But if you just sit back and listen to people that have been in the same situation as you and how they got out of that situation, you'll make your life a lot more simpler, and you go through those problems way faster.
And again, that was good. Instead of just, once you listen to someone, instead of just taking the perception and making it your own, why not take notes, and then ask why? Why does this pertain to me, and what way could I research something that will allow for my mindset to develop further than what that individual just told me? That's the important thing. Again, once you get your information, you turn that information, those thoughts into feelings. You turn those feelings into action, and once you turn those action into habits, those habits become your character. And the way that you see yourself and your own character is really what determines your future.
Whoa. Got some chills.
Really. So, when it comes to affirming ourselves, and I know this is bigger than us, bigger than myself and Corey Phillips, but so far we've been saying, I am wealthy, I am legendary, I am free, and having that as the basis of the beginning of our day. Before we even do our morning, we do we have to do in regards to affirming ourselves and seeing ourselves in the light that we wish to become. Not that we see ourselves in now, but projecting positivity in our future. So that's what we're going to be doing right now. Before we even get off the podcast, I want us to affirm ourselves. So Corey, together we're going to say, I'm wealthy, I'm legendary, I'm free 3 times until we feel it. Because it's to the point where once we say it, it's like a different feeling that you feel. So, all right, 3, 2, 1. I am wealthy. I am legendary. I am free. I am wealthy. I am legendary. I am free. I am wealthy. I am legendary. I am free. All right, let's get it, y'all. So, again, thank you for viewing the content that we have going on today, and moving forward, not only do you need to continuously project the version of yourself that you wish to see, but to not think of yourself and your actions in a negative light, and push that positivity on other people that can gain value